What's up guys and welcome back to Techplant. Today I'm going to show you how I saved a Purple Oxalis plant from death row at one of my local plant shops. Hopefully you guys can learn how to save yours if yours is also on death row. Let's check it out. Alright, so this is my Purple Oxalis plant, and as you can see it's not looking at its greatest. About half of it looks like it's dying and the other half looks like it's kind of limping along. Here you can see it has received the mark of death from the plant store. This sad plant is going for this as is. When I purchased this plant, the soil was actually pretty dry, so I'm not sure if this was being overwatered. These plants do have a dormancy period, so maybe it's kind of halfway in the middle of that. If you look closely, the stems are very different colors. The really red stems are the ones that are very lively, and the green ones are the ones that were kind of sagging off the side of the plant. So we're going to kind of prune and cut all of these away. We don't want the plant to put any more energy into these leaves, and instead we want to cut them off and kind of try and trigger the plant's rhizomes to produce more leaves. So using a sharp scissors, I just kind of start trimming along and try and cut them as close as I can to the base of the soil, just because I don't want all these like weird little like dried up sticks kind of poking out. Even if you have a very healthy plant that you're not overwatering or anything, this is something that could happen to it because again, these plants do experience dormancy, in which the leaves do a very similar thing to what you're seeing right here. Before you go crazy and just start cutting everything that's green, make sure you look, because some of these stems might actually be flowering stems. Here's what they look like. So just keep an eye out so you don't accidentally cut these off, because this is a good way to lose the flowers that are about to appear, so be careful. Once you've got everything kind of trimmed and cleaned up, you'll see that all that's left are the leaves and stems that are actually still like seeking light. These things you can tell have been like all facing and looking towards the sun, and they're all standing upright for the most part and pretty darn healthy looking. Here again you can kind of see the leaves and see that they just weren't looking so well, so that's why I kind of think it might be a little more than just dormancy, just because the leaves are kind of like they have dry spots or fungus spots or just something's wrong with them. It's not simply dormancy. Especially when you start to compare them to these healthy leaves. These newer healthy leaves look quite incredible actually. I really love the color patterns to them. Here you can see some new leaves are already sprouting out from the good side. And I think there's actually one coming from the bad side, so it seems to be kind of rebounding. We also have a few flowering stalks that are starting to appear, so that's really cool and exciting, because this is the first time I've ever owned this plant and I've actually never seen one flower in real life, so this should be pretty cool. I'm really glad that I saved this plant or purchased this plant. Another really cool and interesting thing about this plant is these three joints right here. These actually pivot, and these plants open and close. So they open during the daytime and at night they close down. So right now they're in the closed position, and you've only seen them in the closed position in this footage so far. And here it is 15 days later. It looks absolutely stunning, and it has made a complete transformation. It's really insane what just a little bit of love and care can do for a plant and how it can radically change. Here it is again when we first started, and it was kind of dilapidated and just not looking well. And again, here it is now, and it's just absolutely beautiful, and I'm so happy I put the time into it. I'm actually really surprised how many flowers came out of this thing, and I wish I knew a little bit more about the flowers and if I could pollinate them or something. But sadly I didn't do the research in time, and then the flowers kind of died, so I never got a chance to actually try and pollinate them, but I did get to enjoy just how beautiful they are. I also really love how this plant faces the sun so well. So it almost looks like all the leaves are facing the camera, and that's because that was like where my window was, and so that's how they orientated themselves to face the sun. That's another important aspect of this plant, is you better rotate it a lot if it's getting light from one direction. These plants are very like mobile. I mean, even just night and day they change radically by opening and closing. So you can imagine how quickly they can turn to face the light. So you have to be careful that they don't do that, because these things can get tangled quite easily actually. Because they're always opening and closing, they kind of get stuck on each other, and it could damage the mechanism in which they use to do that opening and closing. So make sure you're rotating these plants a lot just to keep them from getting too far one direction. I think that's also one of the problems from the original one, is they kind of left it too long, and they all faced a certain direction, and then when they did finally turn it and put it in that new area where I bought it from, the leaves that didn't face the sun properly just kind of failed to move just because they were so far in one direction. These plants like to have moist soil, and they really don't like to have like really long dry spells. So try and keep it moist but never too wet. You're going to want it to kind of dry out in between waterings, otherwise the rhizomes could suffer some sort of root rot. Also remember that there is going to be dormancy, and these leaves will start to droop one day, so you have to be really diligent with knowing how well and how much you're watering this thing, because you don't want to confuse the dormancy for over or under watering. When your rhizomes do start to become dormant, the first step you want to do is start decreasing your watering though, because you don't want to flood it, because again, when it's dormant it's not using that many resources, so that's why you have to decrease. And you're also going to want to start cutting off all the drooping leaves, because again, those are going to take energy from your rhizomes. So this is actually a plant that takes active care to kind of keep it up, but once you trim the leaves off, hopefully it comes out of dormancy pretty soon, and it should start shooting up those sprouts in which you saw earlier. I hope all these tips kind of helped you learn about this plant in case you guys have it or you're struggling to figure out what's wrong with your plant. It could just be dormancy, so try not to worry too much. Alright guys, that pretty much sums up this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and maybe you can use these same techniques to save your Purple Oxalis. But most importantly, I think this is a really good exercise to do, because if you go to the store and you buy a sick plant and you figure out how to save it and you figure out what worked to save it, you can apply these same methods to many other plants that you may have that are suffering. I think it's a good exercise and a good challenge for anyone who really likes houseplants, because it's just a great way to experiment and learn how to save a plant without having to lose a lot of money in the process. Again, this was only a few dollars, so it was worth the chance, and I learned something. So I think it's a really cool thing. If you guys like this video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more, hit the subscribe button. And if you want to see me save other plants, or at least attempt to, I have killed a few plants in the past, you just have never seen it. Let me know in the comments, and I can try and save other plants. But as always, may your plants grow strong and healthy. See you next time.